Jackson had an absolute, total, and thorough inability to sleep.
I'm here to get justice for Michael Jackson.
Your Honor, I am an innocent man.
He was not an anesthesiologist. He was not board certified in cardiology. Conrad Murray was not board certified in any medical specialty. Michael Jackson's death was a homicide.
Related to Conrad Murray's AT&T phone as it relates to data, correct?
Yes.
And we have reviewed page 66, which ends with item number 882 on June 25th, 2009, a time of 8:54 a.m. related to data, correct?
Yes.
And turning your attention to page 66, this contains additional items of data-related activity from 9 a.m. all the way down to 1:23 p.m., 2:19 p.m., 2:54 p.m., and all the way down through 4:03 p.m.
Yes.
And on page 68 continues with data activity on the cell phone all the way through to stopping at, for purposes of our records, 5:02 p.m., entry item 909 on June 25th, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. I have nothing further.
Put on the lights, please. Ms. Brazil? Thank you. You're welcome. Cross-examination, Scorgian?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Dixon, you testified that the subscriber for this telephone number was Dr. Murray, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But as you sit here today, can you tell us who in fact was using the phone on that particular date and time?
No.
Okay. The records don't identify the person who's using the phone, correct?
Correct.
Now, we reviewed certain records concerning text messages, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But those records don't, in fact, give you the contents of those text messages, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a way that someone can actually receive the contents of the text messages?
No.
Okay. So AT&T does not save that?
In normal course of business, we did not save that information.
Okay. Now, showing you what's been marked as People's 52. Yeah, Your Honor, may we have a moment?
Please.
Mr. Dixon, showing you what's previously been marked as People's 52. You recognize that document?
Yes.
Okay, now, when you look at the phone number, for example, at the 8:49 a.m., 702-683-5217, do you see that?
You have to zoom in, please, sir.
Your Honor, can we dim the lights as well, please?
Yes, and if you want to provide a copy to the witness, you may, although, again, with our low-tech environment here, of which I'm constantly apologizing.
See the call from?
Yes.
And then third down, there's a phone number, 702-683-5217, correct?
Yes.
And below that, it says Antoinette Gill.
Yes.
Okay, as you see here today, do you know whether or not that number belongs to Antoinette Gill?
No.
Okay, so we don't know whether that's accurate or not, correct?
Objection states the testimony.
Overruled. You may answer it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell from this exhibit whether a particular call that was made, whether it was answered by the telephone belonging to Dr. Murray?
No.
Okay. Would you be able to tell whether a particular call went to voicemail?
From this document, no.
Okay. From the records previously marked as People's 51, would you be able to tell whether a particular call was answered?
Yes.
Okay. Would you know whether a particular call went to voicemail?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to tell whether a particular voicemail was checked?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to tell whether a particular text message was reviewed?
No.
Okay. Showing you People's Exhibit 52, you see the call at 11:26 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, and that was a call from a Bridget Morgan at 310-590-9566, correct?
Objection. Beyond the scope.
Overruled on that ground. You may answer. You need to re-ask.
I need to be re-asked because this information identifies another party's call records outside of AT&T.
So based on your phone records, would you be able to tell whether or not that particular call was answered?
Objection vague as to which call.
I believe that the Bridget Morgan designated call.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Overruled. You may answer.
I wouldn't know. No.
Okay, showing you the call that was, time of call says 10:34 a.m. Do you see that?
Yes, once again, this information that you're giving me is from a different party. This is not AT&T's records.
I understand that, Mr. Dixon, but the call at 10:34 by Dr. Murray's AT&T cellular telephone, is that reflected in the phone records of AT&T?
Yes.
Okay, so in reference to that call to a Stacy Ruggles at 619-994-3233, you see that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that call would be reflected in your records, correct?
Yes.
And those records are in front of you?
I have the records with me.
Okay, and can you tell us whether that call was answered or whether or not it was a voicemail that was left?
From looking at this here, I wouldn't know.
Looking at the other records previously marked as People's 51, would you be able to look at those and tell us whether that call, whether it was answered or whether a voicemail was left?
Yes.
Can you do that for us?
Can you see it, or would you like the lights turned up a little bit?
I can see it, sir.
We can turn the lights back on, Your Honor. I'm done with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Yes. You have a question, Mr. Dixon?
Yes, the date. The question.
It's June 25 at approximately 10:34 a.m. There was a phone call placed from Dr. Murray's AT&T cellular telephone to a 619-994-3233 phone number.
Objection, mistakes of testimony. That's a call from the Sprint phone, not the AT&T phone.
Sustained. You just want to re-ask it, please?
Mr. Dixon, moving to another point, if you were to go to page 66 of those phone records that we reviewed, that you referred to as the data usage, and you had indicated that there was a what you call a pull notification, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's where we saw every hour there was a 104, a 204, a 304, a 404, a 504, and a 604 entry, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the phone is automatically set up to do that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not as though the subscriber is actually checking his phone every hour, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Gorgian, thank you. Ms. Brazil.
Thank you.
Wait, do you need a moment? Mr. Chernoff's confirmed with Mr. Gorgian. Do you need a few more questions?
Mr. Dixon, looking at People's Exhibit 52, you see the 11:07 a.m. entry?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a call to the AT&T cellular telephone that we're talking about by a 619-994-3233 number, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us whether or not that particular phone call was answered or if it was gone to voicemail?
No.
Okay, looking at the records in front of you, People's Exhibit 51, would you be able to tell us if you were to look at those records?
No.
Okay, so there's no way to determine whether that particular call was answered or if it went to voicemail?
I can try to check as far as call duration by looking at the duration of the call.
Okay, and can you please do that for us?
And you'd be looking at People's 51 for that?
Yes.
But that still don't indicate it. It could be on voicemail, and it could just be talking through the voicemail. So that was a stupid call on him. He effed up on that.
Six 25th,
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Dixon.
11:51 a.m.
At 11:07 a.m.
07. It's identified as an incoming call. We don't know if it went to voicemail.
What page is that on, People's 51?
Page 21, sir.
Thank you.
And does it also give you the duration of the call, the length of the call?
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay. But as you testified earlier, even if it was 35 seconds, it gets rounded up to a minute, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But as you sit here today, you're not able to tell us whether or not that call went to voicemail or if it was answered?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gorgian, thank you. Ms. Brazil, redirect, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Dixon, as a point of clarification, when you reviewed People's number 52, there are two colors on this chart, and the calls that pertain to your employer, AT&T, those calls are reflected in the lighter color. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the phone call entries on this chart that are in yellow, they pertain to an entirely different cell phone provider representing a second cell phone that was being used during the time period, correct?
Yes.
And on the last row of phone calls here, I'd like to direct your attention to a typographical error in the chart, people's number 52. If you'll check the records, please. The call indicating time of 3:38 p.m., a call placed by Conrad Murray from his AT&T cell phone to a 310-310-807 number. Would you confirm that should be 3:58 instead of 3:38? There's a typographical error on my chart.
Yes, confirmed.
So the correct time for the 3:38 call should be 3:58, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to reflect the accurate time on the People's Exhibit. May the record reflect I have placed 3:58. Is that correct, Mr. Dixon? As to the AT&T phone records, a call placed by Conrad Murray's AT&T phone at 3:58 p.m.
Yes.
Defense counsel asked you about your knowledge of the information on the call chart related to the individuals' names. You don't know the names of the individuals, do you?
No.
But you do know, and you have verified the accuracy of the telephone numbers as it relates to AT&T on this chart, as well as the phone records that have been presented in court today, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. I have no further questions.
Mr. Brazil, thank you. Mr. Gorgian, recross?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. May Mr. Dixon be excused, Ms. Brazil?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Gorgian?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Dixon, I want to thank you for your testimony.
All right.
Sir, please do not discuss your testimony or the facts of the case with any other witnesses until we finish the trial. You may step down. You may leave. Thank you, sir. May the people... Oh, I was just going to tell the people to get the records. Mr. Dixon's done so. The next witness for the people is...
People called Jeff Strome.
Sir, please stand in the witness box. I'm sorry, just one moment. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your name for the record. Spell your first and last names.
My name's Jeff Strome, Jeffstrohm, as in Mary.
Mr. Strome, good morning.
Good morning.
Let me provide you with instructions which I provide to every witness in every case. The first instruction is to please sit back and relax. The second instruction is to answer questions loudly. The third question is to answer questions yes or no when you're called upon, rather than using slang such as which can be confusing. And the last instruction is to wait until you hear an entire question before you even start to answer it. And that way we won't have people speaking over each other at the same time. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brazil, direct exam.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Strome.
Good morning.
Please tell us where you are employed.
I work for Sprint Nextel Telecommunications.
What type of services does Sprint Nextel Communications provide?
We are in the cell phone industry and other wireless services.
What is your position there?
I'm a custodian of records.
Describe your duties as custodian of records, please.
As a custodian of records, I'm responsible for testifying for all the records that are produced in Sprint's legal compliance department. When I'm not on the road testifying, I'm responsible for responding to legal demands, providing various types of phone records.
But I have a 36-page document. I'd ask that it be marked as People 53, please.
It is?
Mr. Strome, prior to coming to court today, did you have an opportunity to review phone records related to a Sprint Nextel phone number ending in the number 3747?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to ask you some questions about the phone records, and to assist me, I'm going to put a page on the projector.
Okay.
And ask you questions about the way that the information is recorded by Sprint Nextel. Do you recognize the three columns? Ms. Benson, would you hit the lights, please? Thank you. Do you recognize the three columns that I have placed on the projector to be page 123 of the cell phone records for Sprint cell phone subscriber ending in number 3747?
Yes, I recognize this page.
Would you be able to describe for the jurors what the columns represent in terms of information contained therein going from left to right of the document?
Sure. Oh, do you have a
Please.
pointer?
Please.
Okay. Starting from the left-hand side, we have the calling number. If I'm calling somebody, I'm making an outbound phone call, or I'm initiating the phone call. Second column, we have the called number. If I'm being called, I'm receiving the phone call. Third column, the dial digits. Those are the numbers actually input into one handset. Next column, M_R_pound. What that is an acronym for mobile roll number. The entries you see underneath there are going to be inbound, outbound, or routed with respect to the target number. Inbound being that the target number is receiving the phone call, outbound being that the target number is initiating the phone call. Next column is the start date. That's the start date and time of a particular phone call. And the time zone is with respect, for phone calls, the time zone is with respect to the cell phone tower that's fielding the phone call. So if I make or receive a phone call in Los Angeles, it's going to be in Pacific Standard Time.
Let me interrupt you there for a moment, Jeff. If I'm in another state and I'm making a phone call to Los Angeles, what information would be reflected on the phone records?
The phone records are going to reflect the time zone of this target number ending in 3747. Has nothing to do with the phone number that this target number is communicating with.
Please continue.
The end date, that's when a phone call terminates. From our network, the same rule of thumb for the time zone.
And the time is reflected in minutes, seconds, and further to the 10th of a second?
Yes.
And the next column?
The next column is the duration. That's the amount of time spent on the network in seconds. next column, repull number. What the repull number is, for the sake of these phone records, is a reference to a group of cell phone towers with respect to a certain area. There's a repull number for Kansas City. There's a repull number for Dallas. For bigger areas such as Los Angeles, there's multiple repull numbers, but they all reference a group of cell phone towers with respect to a certain area. Second to last and last column, we have the first cell. What that is the specific cell phone tower that the target number is using at the beginning of the phone call. And finally, the last cell, the specific cell phone tower that the target number is using at the end of the phone call, that the target number is using, not the phone number that the target number is communicating with.
So when you use the term target number, you're referring to this phone as it ends in digits 3747, correct?
Correct.
To these business records, you're obviously familiar with the way that Sprint maintains these cell phone records?
Yes, I am.
And these records are kept in the regular course of business with their entries, such as the information that you have described for us. A few moments ago is recorded near the time that the activities occur, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Strong, who is the subscriber for Sprint Nextel number 702-809-3747, the subject of the phone records that we're discussing this morning?
The subscriber name was Conrad Murray.
And turn up the lights if you need them.
I'm going to need him again in a second down, Your Honor.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Strong, before we move back to the records, the status of the count in June 25th of 2009 was active, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Strong, prior to coming to court today, did you review a two-colored chart that I provided to you that had calls related to Sprint Nextel cell phone number ending in 3747 depicted in yellow?
Yes, I did.
And did you compare the information, time of call from number, call to number, and duration of the call, of the information contained in this chart highlighted in yellow to the Sprint Nextel phone records that you brought with you and that we've been discussing today in court?
Yes, I compared the two.
Focusing on occurred on June 25th, 2009. Is that correct?
Correct.
And let's start first with the first phone call on the chart relative to the Sprint cell phone ending in 3747. That would be at 7:01 a.m. And it was a call from Dr. Murray's phone to another 702 number, and that call ended had a duration of 25 seconds, correct?
Correct.
Would you be able to just focus on the yellow areas that are relevant to your subscriber information and provide us with the information that's contained in the cell phone records, please, as reflected in this chart?
Sure. You want me to start with the 8:35 or the 7:01?
The 8:35, please.
Okay. At 8:35 a.m., phone number 702-809-3747 made a phone call to 925-786-6377. The duration was 0 seconds as it was a text message. 8:49 a.m., phone number 702-683-5217. Outbound phone call to 702-809-3747. The total duration being 53 seconds.
And this call, why is there an entry of 48 seconds and 53 seconds on the phone records?
This was one example of a routed phone call.
What does that mean?
Routed phone calls can be one of two things. For this particular example, it's when a TLDN is used, or temporary local directory number. Think of it as a bridge number. It's used to help complete a call when somebody is in an area where they otherwise cannot find service. An example would be, keeping in mind that my home repo is in Kansas City, if I were to receive a phone call from you, Miss Brazil, here in California, while I'm with my phone here in California, what would happen is Miss Brazil would make a connection to her cell phone tower, which in turn would try and find me in my home repo of Kansas City. But because I'm not there, because a tower there cannot find me, a bridge number, a TLDN, has to be used to track me down wherever I am. When that happens, on our Excel spreadsheet, there's two entries. There's the routed aspect of the phone call, and then there's the phone call between the two numbers. That is why you have two different durations that show up there.
So what is the actual connection time of the phones?
The total connection time would be reflected in the 53 seconds.
And moving to the next call, please.
Next highlighted entry at 10:20 a.m. We have phone number 713-857-0124, making a phone call to 702-809-3747, lasting 111 seconds. 10:34 a.m. Phone number 702-809-3747. Outbound phone call to
619.
I'm sorry, yes. 619-994-3233. Approximately 8.5 minutes. Next highlighted entry at 11:26 a.m. Phone number 310-590-9566. Outbound phone call to 702-809-3747. Total connection time 7 seconds.
And the reason for the 6-second entry there, as well as reflected on the phone records, is the same previous explanation that you have provided regarding the actual connection of the phone, correct?
Correct. Another example of a routed phone call.
And the next entry for Sprint Nextel activity on this telephone on June 25th, 2009.
1:08 p.m., 702-809-3747. Outbound phone call to 310-310-8070. Approximately 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brazil. Cross-examination, Mr. Gorgian, would you like the lights on or off?
Off, Your Honor.
Right, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Strong.
Good morning.
Just have one question for you. The phone call at 11:26. Do you see that?
Yes.
And that's from a 310 310-590-9566. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's a call to the target number, correct?
Correct.
And it's got a total of 7 seconds?
Correct.
Correct. Can you tell from your records whether or not that call was answered by Dr. Murray?
Based on these records, no. You cannot tell one way or another whether or not the phone call was answered.
So that could very well have been a voicemail message that was left by the number ending in 9566?
It was not a voicemail message that was left. You are just unable to tell whether or not the phone call was actually answered or whether it just rang for 7 seconds.
Okay, so that was my next question. So it could just be a random telephone call without a message or without getting any answer on the other end, correct?
You can't tell one way or another, correct?
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Gorgian, thank you. Redirect, Ms. Brazil?
Nothing. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. May we have the lights? Thank you. May Mr. Strom be excused, Ms. Brazil?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Gorgian?
Yes.
Mr. Strom, I want to thank you for your testimony. Sir, please don't discuss your testimony or the facts of the case with any other witness until we finish the trial. You may step down and leave. You're excused. Thank you, sir. The people may call their next witness.
Hey, John, before we call Dr. Wynn to the stand.
Thank you.
Call, please.
Next highlighted entry at 10:20 a.m. We have phone number 713-857-0124, making a phone call to 702-809-3747, lasting 111 seconds. 10:34 a.m. Phone number 702-809-3747, outbound phone call to 819-99.
619?
I'm sorry, yes. 619-994-3233, approximately 8.5 minutes. Next highlighted entry at 11:26 a.m. Phone number 310-590-9566, outbound phone call to 702-809-3747, total connection time 7 seconds.
And the reason for the 6-second entry there as well, as reflected on the phone records, is the same previous explanation that you have provided regarding the actual connection of the phone, correct?
Correct. Another example of a routed phone call.
And the next entry for Sprint Nextel activity on this telephone on June 25th, 2009.
1:08 p.m., 702-809-3747, outbound phone call to 310-310-8070, approximately 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brazil. Cross-examination, Mr. Gorgian, would you like the lights on or off?
Off, Your Honor.
Right, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Strong. Good morning. Just have one question for you.
The phone call at 11:26, do you see that?
Yes.
And that's from a 310-590-9566, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's a call to the target number, correct?
Correct.
And it's got a total of 7 seconds?
Correct.
Correct. Can you tell from your records whether or not that call was answered by Dr. Murray?
Based on these records, no. You cannot tell one way or another whether or not the phone call was answered.
So that could very well have been a voicemail message that was left by the number ending in 9566?
It was not a voicemail message that was left. You are just unable to tell whether or not the phone call was actually answered or whether it just rang for 7 seconds.
Okay, so that was my next question. So it could just be a random telephone call without a message or without getting any answer on the other end, correct?
You can't tell one way or another, correct?
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Gorgian, thank you. Redirect, Ms. Brazil?
Nothing. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. May we have the lights? Thank you. May Mr. Strong be excused, Ms. Brazil?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Gorgian?
Yes.
Mr. Strom, I want to thank you for your testimony. Sir, please don't discuss your testimony or the facts of the case with any other witness until we finish the trial. You may step down and leave. You're excused. Thank you, sir. The people may call their next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we call Dr. Wynn to the stand.
Thank you.
May I go to the hallway, Your Honor?
You may. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
Thank you.
Please state your name for the record. Spell your first and last names.
My name is Tao Win. First name is spelled T, as in Tom, H-A-O. Last name is Nguyen, N-G-U-Y-E-N.
Dr. Wynn, good morning. Let me provide you with some instructions, and these are instructions I give to every witness in every case. The first instruction is to please sit back and relax. The second instruction is to speak in a loud voice so all of us can hear you. The third instruction is to answer a question yes or no, if that's called for, rather than using slang like which can be confusing. And the final instruction is to wait until you hear an entire question before you even start to respond. In this way, we won't have people speaking over each other at the same time. Is all of that acceptable?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Walden, direct exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Wynn, where are you employed?
I was employed at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA.
Okay. And that's where you're currently employed?
Yes.
And what is your position at UCLA?
I am appointed as a cardiologist, scientist. So 20% of my time, I'm an attending cardiologist in the Cardiac Critical Care Service at UCLA, Ronald Reagan Medical Center. And 80% of the time, I do research.
Okay. And could you describe for us briefly your educational background that led you to becoming a cardiologist?
Starting from...
With college?
I went to Case Western Reserve University, finished in 2004. Then I went to the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine for 2 degrees, 2 trainings. Under the National Institute of Health Medical Scientist Training Program to be trained in a combined MD, PhD program. I got my PhD in 2002. My thesis work was on the structure and function of an ion channel called voltage-gated sodium channel studies in the heart and the brain.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
It's a little bit to comprehend. Could you repeat the focus?
The focus of my thesis work is on the structure and function of a voltage-gated ion channel called the sodium channel. And this sodium channel is very important in electrical activity in the brain, in the heart, in the muscles.
Okay.
Then I finished my MD. I went on to do internship and residency at the Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions under the Oshler Residency Training Program. I finished in 2007. Then I went to UCLA for 2 fellowships, a cardiology fellowship
for 2 years, starting from 2007, and a postdoctoral research fellowship under the UCLA Specialty Training and Advanced Research Program in 2011. And so starting July the 1st, 2011, that was my faculty appointment.
Okay. And you're a medical doctor?
Yes.
Okay. And going back to June 25th, 2009, were you working at UCLA as a medical doctor?
Yes. At that time, I was a cardiology fellow.
Okay. And what were your day-to-day responsibilities, obligations at that time as a cardiology fellow in June 2009?
That time, I was a fellow in the CCU rotation, which is a rotation in the cardiac critical care service.
Okay, and what did that involve?
That involves taking care of patients that are critically ill, that have cardiac issues, but are critically ill.
Okay.
And it involves teaching the medical students, the interns, the residents, helping managing the patients in the service. Supervising me was an attending cardiologist, Dr. Daniel Cruz.
Okay. And on June 25th, 2009, were you called into the trauma room or the emergency room regarding the decedent, in this case, Michael Jackson?
Yes.
And do you recall how it was that you were called in to go to the trauma room at that time?
I received a page saying that the emergency team received would like to request some assistance regarding a VIP patient named Michael Jackson.
And did you then go down to the trauma room?
I ran down, yes.
And was Dr. Cooper, the attending emergency room doctor, on scene?
Yes.
And when you went down to where Michael Jackson was being treated, did you see somebody who you see in court here today?
Yes. I saw Dr. Murray.
Okay. Point to identifying the defendant, Dr. Murray. Thank you, Your Honor. And were you introduced to Dr. Murray, or how did it come to be that you saw him in the room?
Dr. Cooper immediately introduced me to Dr. Murray as she saw me coming into the trauma room.
Okay. And did you approach Dr. Murray at that time and speak with him?
Yes, that was the first thing I did when I came down there.
Okay.
After talking to Dr. Cooper.
And what was your purpose in approaching Dr. Murray and talking to him at that time?
My goal is to assess what was going on. I saw that the code was being run, and just to get a overall assessment of what was going on.
Okay. And were you aware at that time that Dr. Murray had introduced himself as Michael Jackson's personal physician?
Yes, he did.
And did he relay that to you personally as well?
Yes, he introduced himself to me as the private physician for Mr. Jackson.
And did you ask him at that time, ask Dr. Murray, what had happened?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
And he said that Mr. Jackson had been very tired. He was preparing for a concert tour in England and had been asking for some medications to help him go to sleep.
Okay. And did you specifically ask Dr. Murray then what he had given Michael Jackson?
I did. He replied 4 milligram Ativan IV, meaning intravenously.
Okay. And Ativan is another name for lorazepam?
Exactly.
And did you follow up, when he told you the 4 milligrams of lorazepam, did you follow up with any other questions?
I asked whether there were other narcotics or sedatives besides Ativan that was given.
Okay. And what, if anything, did Dr. Murray ever say in response to that question about any other narcotics or sedatives?
Nothing. Nothing else.
Okay, that was his response, that he gave nothing else?
Yeah. In that idea, like no other drugs.
Okay.
None.
But I mean, he answered your question, and his answer was that he had not given any other drugs?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you ask next?
I asked him what happened next.
Okay.
He replied that after giving the medication, I asked him when was the time that the Ativan was given. He could not remember the time. He said he didn't know. Then I asked him what happened next. He said he left, but when he returned, he saw that the patient was not breathing. I asked him what time was that. He did not know either.
So he told you that he found the patient not breathing, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you asked him at what time that was that he found the patient not breathing, and he wasn't able to tell you?
No, he was not able to tell me. And I asked him from the time that he found that the patient was down, what was the time that EMS or the 911 was called. And he couldn't remember that either. He said he did not have any concept of time. He did not have a watch.
So you asked him to give you the amount of time between the time the patient was given lorazepam to the time he found the patient not breathing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, and he was not able to answer that question.
He was not able to answer the time or an approximation of the time interval.
Okay. And then you asked him to give an estimate between the time found not breathing and the time that he called, that 911 was called, and he was not able to answer that, correct?
Correct.
Now, in your discussions with Conrad Murray, did he ever mention any other narcotics to you other than the Ativan or the lorazepam?
No, I specifically asked, and his reply was negative.
Okay. And he never mentioned propofol to you?
Absolutely not.
At some point, did Dr. Murray ever mention the agent propofol to you?
He did not mention that agent to me.
Okay. Now, at some point, with your involvement in the emergency room, did you, or were you involved with a balloon pump?
Yes. So after receiving the answers from Dr. Murray, I called and discussed the situation with my attending, Dr. Cruz, at the time.
Okay.
And Dr. Cruz came down to the emergency room and met with Dr. Murray. Dr. Murray told him that Dr. Murray found a pulse. Neither Dr. Cruz or I could find a pulse. Given the situation, Dr. Murray did ask me one thing, and he repeated the same request to Dr. Cruz, that we not give up easily and try to save Mr. Michael Jackson's life.
Is that what you were trying to do?
Yes. From the brief conversation with Dr. Murray, I had a couple of concerns. I could see that Dr. Cooper's team had already been running the code. Mr. Jackson was under ventilator support at the time. But in Dr. Murray's mind, if we called it quit at that time, it would be giving up easily.
And let me stop you there for a moment. So who first raised the request for the balloon pump?
Nobody raised the request exactly for the balloon pump. It was just, that's the next thing to do if we have to proceed. Had it been under a better circumstance and the initial code that was run was able to resuscitate the patient and he now needed a little bit more of cardiovascular support, that would be the right thing to do. If there was a post, that would be the next thing that we want to proceed with. In this case, when there was drug-induced respiratory and cardiovascular failure, but it's not a case of too little, too late. It seems like a case of too late because Dr. Murray was not able to give me the time or the time interval. What I feared was that time was not on Mr. Jackson's side, that we were running too late.
Okay.
Mr. Waldman, at a convenient point.
This is fine, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the noon break at this time, right at noon. Please remember all the admonitions, both the written admonitions as well as my continuing verbal admonitions. We will take the noon break. Please enjoy your lunch, and the court itself will be in recess until 1:30 this afternoon. We'll see you again at 1:30. Enjoy your lunch.